Thanks so much for joining us here on the CBN News Channel. I'm Ephraim Graham.
And I'm Charlene Israel. Detroit city officials spent the weekend defending their decision to file for bankruptcy. Last week, Detroit became the largest U.S. city to take that step, but a state judge blocked the move. Officials say Detroit needs a second chance to restructure and get past a financial crisis 60 years in the making. When a city as large as Detroit fails, it doesn't happen overnight.
I mean, a lot of this debt, a lot of the practices that I put forward in my June 14th report that talked about deferrals, unfunded obligations, borrowings, addiction to debt, even a level of corruption from 2002 to 2008, which was significant, have created this problem.
Emergency manager Kevin Orr was hired back in March to fix Detroit's debt problem. He warned then that there was a 50-50 chance of a bankruptcy filing. Now that warning is a reality.
We don't have a choice. We've crossed the Rubicon on the level we have 18 to 19 billion dollars in debt and no funding mechanism for it. So this is a question of necessity.
Public pensions are one of the city's major problems. Detroit has 18,000 retired public workers who are still owed pension and health benefits. But the funding for that program is under by about $3.5 billion. Governor Rick Snyder says enough is enough. He says retiree pensions have hampered state and city budgets. Now it's time for public workers to pay more of their health care costs. And it turns out Detroit is just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to cities in financial danger. A Pew survey shows that 61 major cities across the nation are in similar circumstances. The Detroit Free Press points out they share a $217 billion shortfall. That comes from unfunded pension and health care liabilities. It's not clear if any of them will take the same step as Detroit. But Detroit Mayor Dave Bing says he hopes their bankruptcy filing will be a new start.
Detroit is a very iconic city worldwide, and our people will fight through this, and we will come back.
The mayor doesn't expect much help in the way of bailout money from the federal government. Both Bing and Governor Snyder say Detroit created their money problems, and now it's up to them to find a way out.
I've gotten great support from this administration. I've got great support from a lot of the different departments within the administration. They've been helpful. But now that we've done our bankruptcy filing, I think we've got to take a step back and see what's next.
The city faces a massive legal fight. Detroit owes about $18 billion to 100,000 creditors, and not everyone will get paid.
Famed neurosurgeon Dr. Benjamin Carson is weighing into the debate about race in America following the not guilty verdict for George Zimmerman. In his weekend analysis, Carson encouraged the country to tone down the rhetoric and to realize that we are not each other's enemies.
So often we take any kind of situation that occurs today in America and we get on the different sides of it and we hurl hand grenades at each other rather than engaging in intelligent discussion. This is what we need to do. Do we have a perfect system? Absolutely not. Does everybody think about things the right way? Absolutely not. But we're never going to get there if we continue to make ourselves into enemies.
Zimmerman is the man accused of killing an unarmed black teenager in self-defense.
Craft store giant Hobby Lobby has won another victory against Obamacare's birth control mandate. A federal judge granted the Christian family-owned retailer a temporary exemption. Obamacare requires employers to provide the morning after pill and birth control free of charge to their employees or pay a fine. CEO Steve Green says he never thought he'd have to sue the federal government over this.
We love this country and the freedoms it stands for, and would never have imagined that we'd be in a position where we would be required to do something that would violate our conscience.
There are now more than 60 separate lawsuits challenging the birth control mandate.
The pain at the pump isn't easing up. The average price of a gallon of gas is $3.67. That is up 18 cents since the beginning of the month. Experts say the cause is a mix of problems in the Middle East and just an increased demand for gas during the summer. All of this comes as America is producing record-breaking amount of domestic oil, but a shortage of pipeline means it's too expensive to move that oil to consumers here in the U.S. So instead, it's going overseas.
A new study shows fracking doesn't hurt the environment. Fracking is a process for getting natural gas from deep down below the ground. It's become an easier, more efficient way to create energy. But environmentalists say it's dangerous to drinking water. However, the study shows that the toxic chemicals used to get the natural gas out of the ground stayed way below the level where we get our drinking water. In fact, they remained a full mile below drinking water supply. The study was conducted for a full year near Pittsburgh.
Many energy analysts say natural gas is one of the brightest hopes for America's energy future. But the controversy surrounding fracking has caused many to question just how successful the natural gas boom really is. One of the most recent naysayers is the liberal New York Times. Mark Martin takes a closer look at the controversy.
The New York Times reports that hundreds of industry emails, internal documents, and data analysis from thousands of wells show drilling for natural gas in shale rock may not be as successful as drilling companies claim. The newspaper says documentation shows the natural gas may be more difficult and expensive to extract, and the wells less productive than what industry leaders are reporting.
Our drillers can control this within inches.
Matt Pizzarella disagrees. He works for Range Resources, a company drilling in the Marcellus Shale Formation in Pennsylvania. He says Range, like other energy firms, is increasing its natural gas production target because of an abundant supply. Trillions of cubic feet of natural gas are believed to be trapped in the Marcellus Shale, and recent advances in drilling technology are freeing the gas from its rock prison. Drilling companies say they're getting better at removing it all the time and getting more natural gas from each well than originally anticipated.
We're entering a golden age of natural gas right now. We were on a one-way ticket to becoming just as dependent on liquefied natural gas from Russia as we are on imported oil from the Middle East and other parts of the world. We now have a 200-year supply of natural gas and growing in the United States of America.
Chesapeake Energy Corporation is another example of a company reporting better than expected results in the Marcellus. Chesapeake now predicts that each well will yield more than 7 billion cubic feet of natural gas over its lifespan, more than double the original estimate. However, potential productivity isn't the only issue raising the eyebrows of skeptics. The Marcellus shale drilling boom is not below the surface when it comes to controversy. In fact, its regulation is the subject of debate by lawmakers here at the state capitol in Harrisburg. The natural gas industry is also on the radar of environmental groups who are concerned about the impact of the drilling on the water, air, and landscape. Yet, in spite of the doubters, there is common ground. Both environmental groups and industry leaders are quick to share how natural gas burns more cleanly than coal and oil, producing less emissions. Mark Martin, CBN News, Pennsylvania.
Monsoon rains brought treacherous flooding to parts of Arizona Sunday. The heavy rains left a part of a Highway 60 in Phoenix area underwater. Cars became stuck, almost covered up to their roofs in water as roads turned into rivers. Several motorists trapped in their vehicles had to be rescued as they tried to drive through floodwaters. 3 children had to be rescued after being caught in a flash flood while rafting. Authorities found them stuck on a sandbar. Homeowners were flooded out as well. One woman estimated 5 feet of water in her basement.
To see a wall of water coming toward you, there's nothing you can do. I have 2 8-foot glass doors, and the water just started rising, rising, rising. Water started coming in around the sides, and 2 minutes after that, the doors burst open, and a wall of water came through my basement.
Forecasters say the rain is expected to end in a few days.
At least 75 people are dead after a powerful earthquake struck a rural area of China this morning. More than 400 people are injured and thousands of homes are damaged or destroyed. The 6.6 quake hit near the city of Dingxi, about 766 miles west of Beijing. Scientists say the quake struck only about 12 miles below the surface, making it much more destructive. Rocks and mudslides are making it difficult for rescue teams to reach the area. Well, there are no deaths reported after the 6.9 earthquake in Wellington, New Zealand. The capital city is still feeling aftershocks this morning. City officials are telling people not to travel downtown today. Residents of a nearby town reported minor damage to their homes and businesses. A series of quakes hit Christchurch, New Zealand in 2011, killing 185 people and destroying much of the city's downtown.
Pope Francis returns to South America today to celebrate World Youth Day in Brazil. Tens of thousands of Catholic youth are in Rio de Janeiro, taking in the sights and picking up their event gear. The week-long celebration includes a huge outdoor mass in a nearby Brazilian town on Thursday. Workers have cleared a field the size of 7 football fields to accommodate the crowd. This is Pope Francis's first international trip since becoming Pope. The former cardinal from Argentina hopes to re-energize the Catholic Church in Brazil, where evangelical churches are growing stronger.
Coming up, a wife reveals her deepest secret, only to find out that her husband has been hiding the same one too.
From CBN.
Broken Eardrum is playing at the Civic tonight.
And you'll just have to miss it.
This is so incredibly unfair.
A special story of love and sacrifice.
Joy, Mom comes up with something.
Christopher Quantum, you and I are going to discuss your attitude right this minute. Superbook.
No.
Join the Superbook DVD Club and get Superbook's newest episode, He is Risen. Plus 2 copies to share with others. All for your gift of $25.
They have arrested Jesus, the Messiah. Do you not know that I have the power to crucify you?
No! Please! You can't! They've taken him to Golgotha. We must hurry. Mary is about to lose her son. The worst thing any mother could face. I am not leaving her.
Superbook. It's an amazing way to build a strong spiritual foundation in the children you love.
Mary, who are you looking for?
I've seen him! He is alive!
Superbook. He is Risen. Available now.
Most people think of pornography as something only men struggle with. Well, it might surprise some to learn that 1/3 of the millions of Americans who visit porn sites on the web are women.
That's right. And just like the men, they're getting addicted to it. Paul Strand has the story.
Pornography has been a serious problem for decades, and it's only become worse in the internet age. Addiction has skyrocketed, even among Christian men.
You may think pornography is just a problem for the males, but there's an author who lives near Pikes Peak here in Colorado who will tell you these days it's definitely a problem for the females as well.
A problem that turned personal for Christian writer and lecturer Shelley Hitz. For years, she secretly battled her own addiction, too ashamed and afraid to confess it.
We were in ministry. My husband was in full-time ministry. We were active in our church. You know, I knew better. And so every time I would get beat up and hammered by the enemy and by myself.
It started off soft-core, but Shelley likens it to the parable of a frog put in a cool pot of water that slowly boils to death as the heat slowly increases.
If Satan would have come to me and said, Shelley, look at this hardcore porn, I would have been like that frog in that pot of boiling water. I would have jumped out. I said, no way.
After years of feeling trapped and disgusted, she found the courage to confess to husband CJ.
And I said, I need help. I can't stop. I don't know what to do, but I know this is going to destroy me. It could destroy our marriage. And I asked him if I could go to counseling.
Then came another surprise. For Shelley, CJ was battling his own years-long porn addiction.
I was able to easily show her grace because I felt so dirty myself and realizing the shame and the ugliness of the addiction.
But he had never planned to tell his wife.
There's no way I can let Shelley know this because she'll just feel hurt.
He finally opened up, and they began a steady battle to heal their marriage. They repented, asked forgiveness, and leaned more on God than ever before. This Colorado couple's next steps included filters on computers, carefully guarding their senses, and most important, enlisting accountability partners.
Somebody that I knew I could trust, that I knew would show me grace, but would ask me the hard questions.
There is healing that comes when you're able to share it with a brother that can pray with you, someone that can even relate to your struggle.
After counseling came deliverance. Then Shelley sensed God wanted her to take the most difficult step of all, going public.
That was 10 years ago. And then this year, I finally obeyed.
That led to the book, A Christian Woman's Guide to Breaking Free from Pornography. Shelley also began to confess during lectures to Christian women and young ladies.
Every time I would share it, it never failed. A woman, a teen girl, someone would come up to me and many times confess for the first time that, you know, that they also struggle.
One young lady in particular shocked Shelley with what she had to say.
I am on a Christian college campus. I am the chaplain. And she said almost every girl on our floor struggles with pornography.
The growth of this addiction across American society led the Christian-based Witherspoon Institute to seek a solution with some of the world's foremost authorities, among them leading marriage and family therapist Jill Manning.
Females consistently, we find, represent approximately 30% of internet pornography consumers, a third, essentially.
For their book, Shelley and her co-author surveyed Christian women and came up with stunning numbers.
19% of Christian women and teen girls that say they're not just exposed to it, but they're addicted. And then of those that said that they were exposed to pornography, 44% said they felt hopeless in overcoming it.
But Shelley and CJ are a living testimony people willing to fight their way out can overcome.
I have been there. Christ has set me free. It has not been an easy path. It's been difficult. I still at times struggle, but there is freedom.
And they say this freedom has brought a new level of intimacy to their marriage.
There's an ecstasy and a peace and a joy and an elation that pornography never will bring.
So the message, the good news is, no matter how deep you're in, no matter how addicted, there's hope, there's deliverance. Paul Strand, CBN News, reporting from Colorado Springs, Colorado.
Up next, what's to become of Egypt's Coptic Christians? How these believers are struggling to protect their faith and their families.
Rioters torched 20 cars in a Paris suburb this weekend. They're angry over France's ban on Islamic veils for women. French police say about 50 attackers were involved in the weekend rampage. Some of them fought the police as others burned cars, garbage, and public property. Friday night, about 250 people clashed with police in another town, also protesting the Islamic veil ban.
The recent political upheaval in Egypt is once again highlighting the plight of Egypt's Christians. They have suffered even more attacks from Islamists since the ouster of Mohamed Morsi.
Now they're hoping and praying Egypt's new leaders do more to protect them, especially their young women who are targeted for kidnap and forced to convert into Islam. Gary Lane has more.
Scenes like these have become all too familiar for Egyptian Christians. This time, it's the funeral of a beloved Coptic priest. Islamist gunmen opened fire on Father Mina Aboud July 6th as he drove his car after an afternoon of shopping in the northern Sinai town of El Arish. Father Mina's murder comes of no surprise to Egypt's Christians. They're frequent targets of attack during times of political instability. Christians have struggled for years not only to protect their churches, homes, and businesses, but also their daughters.
One of the challenges facing Christian families here, particularly in Upper Egypt, is the kidnapping of young Christian girls. It generally happens when the girls enter their teen years. So what are families to do about this? Some move away to Christian villages, relocating. But with that comes a whole new set of challenges.
Manel moved her family from a Muslim village to a Christian one near Almenia. She wanted to protect her oldest daughter, Mariam, from abduction and forced conversion. She made the decision after noticing some Muslim girls and boys attempting to lure Mariam away from her family and faith.
The girls used to tell Mariam, "Come with us, we will give you some money. You are having a hard life." The young boys were sending the young girls to do this. I feared they would kidnap her and then demand a lot of money to return her, or they would return her and she wouldn't be in the same way as they took her.
Now, residing as strangers in a new town, her husband has difficulty finding work.
I am much happier now because it's safe for my daughters here, but the working opportunities for my husband are little because few people know my husband.
Miriam's family borrowed money to buy food and make their house payment. They prayed God would provide help. She and her family are not alone. Last year, a Helsinki Commission hearing revealed the number of disappearances and abduction of Christian girls is increasing. Human trafficking expert Michelle Clark told of more than 800 cases. Still, many Islamic leaders and government officials debunk claims that Christian girls are being trafficked. They insist the conversions and marriages are not forced. They're simply the result of amorous love between young people of different faiths. Helmi El-Sayed is Freedom and Justice Party Secretary for Giza.
A boy and a girl from different religions love each other, and thus one of them converts his religion in order to get married. The problem is that families do not accept that. Also, the two religions, neither the church accepts any of its people to Islam because of love, nor Islam accepts this type of conversion.
Syed claims it's a social problem that must be addressed, not a religious one. Earlier this year, the Coptic Orthodox Patriarch told me that efforts to prevent trafficking and forced conversions often fail.
This is a very sensitive issue for us. We try with the government, with the local authorities. Sometimes we success, but sometimes no success.
The Morsi government did little to curtail the trafficking. Political change gives many Egyptian Christians hope. They pray the next government will force police to treat Christian kidnapping complaints seriously. They also want to see the government prosecute the kidnappers. As for Miriam and her family, their prayers for help were answered. CBN provided them with the seed money needed to start a small clothing business.
My daughters and I will tell people in the church that we sell new clothing, and the profits we get will help buy clothes for my children and feed my family. May the American Christians who help us have a long life, and may God be with them to help others like me to become self-supporting.
Help that brings a glimmer of hope and a new beginning in Egypt. Gary Lane, CBN News, Cairo.
Well, finally this hour, Operation Blessing is helping a small farming community deep in the forest of Sierra Leone.
That's right. The village is Pelawanan. It is located hundreds of miles from electricity and running water. And while the people are hardworking, they're struggling to survive. Operation Blessing teams were able to set up a medical clinic providing free checkups and medicine. Families were also provided with filters to purify their water. And finally, farmers were given new tools to help them clear the land and increase their ability to farm.
So beautiful.
Operation Blessing, I love it.
Every corner of the earth.
We're doing it.
You got it.
Definitely. Well, that's all for now on the CBN News Channel. You can find more of our exclusive coverage of the issues you care most about at cbnnews.com.
And take the time to tell us what you think about the stories you've seen here today. You can do that on Facebook or at CBN News on Twitter. Hope you have a great day and join us once again. Make it a marvelous Monday, everybody.
Introducing the CBN Bible from CBN.com. Now, an easier way to study the Bible and grow in your faith. Highlight your favorite verse. Read separate versions at a glance. Click and read a commentary. Or cross-reference your favorite verse using the Strong's Concordance. All the right tools to study the Bible, all in one place. The CBN Bible, available at cbn.com/Bible or the iTunes App Store.